good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name's Jade, and this is How to Delay. Yep, in this episode we're going to be talking about the distant cousin of reverb. That is delay. So let's go. Yo, hey, what's going on? I'm Jade, and this is How To. And of course, I hope you're doing okay. Yeah, welcome. So this is episode 2 of the How To series, and I get to learn lots of stuff as well too, because that's what it's about, right? It's not. I'm not here to dictate to you on how everything is. I spend the week, or at least 4 days, studying to try and find out more about a particular subject so I can present it and we can have a discussion about it, get some history about it, and maybe understand how to use it a little bit better, right? Again, I am not an expert. Do not take anything I say as expert opinion. It is just from information I've collated, videos I've watched over the last week, and put that all together and collated it into a bunch of information with photos and stuff about the history of a particular subject, and we'll take a look at some apps and how we've got to the point where we are today, where technology that we have is just amazing, right? There's no doubt about it. What we have and the things we're able to use to help our music sound better is just mind-blowing. But there's obviously a history on how we got there, how we get to the place that we have all the stuff that makes it easy to do. And that's what this is about, right? Because sometimes we can forget about it. And I think it's a really good idea to understand a little bit about the history. So every time you open that up going forward in the future, you go, I'm going to open up a delay right now. I know where this came from. I understand the history of this a little bit more, or maybe not. Maybe it's just a chance for me to talk shit for an hour. You'll never know. Well, say hello to folks and we'll get into it, right? Excuse my voice today. It's a bit croaky for some reason. Chris Lane Sr. burned the echo joke last week. Well, this is the thing, right? The delay is the distant cousin of the reverb. They are very close together. Dave Bops, hello. Chris Lane Sr., g'day. Thomas Christ, hello to you, Thomas. Dave Bops, right on time. No. Without delay. Look, there's plenty of puns we could use today. I'll try my best not to do the puns, I promise, because they can get a bit annoying. Lewis, how to delay. Without any further delay, there's the first one. You can do these things. Do people click on these? I don't even know, really. They help the channel out. It really does help me continue to do this, because this is my life, living stuff. Jenny, hello. Brad, hello. Brad did a great show yesterday. It was fantastic. What a great show, huh? What a great show, seeing Brad with his friends and catching up, except for the Mr. Puniverse body that Brad... What is going on? Oh, dear. All right. Is there anyone else I may have missed? Denise Lance, hello to you. It was a great show last night. Fantastic job. Brad example. So let's talk about some delay. Alexander Dean, hey, what's going on? Talking about delay. So without further delay, let's do it, shall we? Let's talk. So I started off last week. We did reverb right last week. And again, this is the distant cousin of reverb. And why is it distant? Well, because it's all about distance, isn't it? It's all about time and distance. So it's only a matter of seconds between reverb and delay, right? We talked about reverb being in a room, being some kind of enclosed space, and the reflections off the walls and all of that stuff, and that tight bounce back, the reflections that come back create a reverb, right? Create that very quick, and it's not, and then it only takes a little bit more than that for it to become an echo or a delay. Remember, echo and delay, same thing, right? Now, I started off last week by talking about how, in fact, this thing works just on a global scale. And the same thing happens here. Like, this is completely different to some of the other episodes we're going to be talking about. And that's why I picked these two to start off with, because these things are naturally occurring effects that we use in our music or in podcasting or whatever it is that you make in movies, sound effects, all that kind of stuff. Both of these two effects have come from nature, where compression is not. Right? There's going to be, when we do the episode on compression, it's not going to be like, so the caveman came out of the cave and was like, you know what? Those peaks are a little bit too loud. Put it in the rock machine to turn it into compress it and bring those. Turn the threshold up. It's not going to work like that. But this is how and it only works. Reverb and delay are only naturally occurring effects because of the planet we live on, because of the makeup of the planet and the atmosphere that surrounds us, right? Hello, Paws and Guitars. Good day to you. So we are surrounded. This little blue ball has a skin around it, right? An atmosphere. And this in itself reverberates so much around our atmosphere, like weather patterns and the way that the swirls around the atmospheres, the tropospheres, all these things. This isn't a science lesson, but you understand there needs to be some kind of wall, some kind of reverberation for these to bounce off, for an echo or a reverb to actually occur. And Earth is pretty damn fucking unique. And it allows this natural occurrence to happen on a big scale. Not only that, like you think about the Schumann resonance. You know about the Schumann resonance. The Earth has its own resonance that is constantly humming away within the core of the Earth. And this is measured these days, and you can tell when there's an earthquake or anything like that, when there's some kind of change in the Earth, the resonance of the Earth changes, and that reverberates. Why? Because we have an atmosphere, and that is essentially a big fucking cave. Should have just said that, shouldn't I? Right? Essentially, we live in a big fucking cave floating through the fucking universe. So when you hear an echo, it's actually not an effect. It's nature. It's physics. It's actual physics happening. It's science, right? And your brain is translating that into space, right? Because it works with the chemistry and the eardrums and the way we're made up, the senses that we have as well, and it goes into our hearing and we process it into our brains and we understand it as an echo. That's the thing we just heard. I just went hello and did hello, 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 hello. That's an echo. 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 And that's a reverb. I can hear, like it's not far away. It's a more enclosed space, right? It's a more enclosed space. Tremor Bear, hello to you. So, delaying an audio signal may feel very trivial these days. I mentioned this at the top of the show. It feels like nothing. You just add a delay on. But it took a long time for us to get to the point where we could recreate nature's echo, nature's delay. And there's a huge history, which we're going to cover today, on mankind's ingenuity to try and create the effect. Remember, it's not an effect, it's physics. It's nature's physics. And a lot of engineering went into this, a lot of great talented human beings went into this and different methodology to give us the effect of delay that we have now. It's a lot more than just milliseconds, right? So these days we turn a dial, choose how many milliseconds, and there we have it. But the path came from caves. It came from, like, now we use digital buffers, but originally it was like these vast echoey spaces, or a cave with multifaceted walls that bounced off at different levels. Different times, what I'm saying, levels. Remember, this is all time-based echoes, right? People literally have tried to manufacture this natural effect using things like spinning drums, loops of tape, oil cans, right, with this oil inside it, and even garden hoses to try and manufacture this effect that we have, that we love so dearly as delay today. And those limitations did not just shape the technology, they shaped the entire sound of genres of music. Right, so the people who've developed this technology from nature's physics have given us some of the greatest songs of all time. Pink Floyd, an early adopter. Pink Floyd, believe it or not, just a side quest over here, one of the not only incredible musicians, but I think sometimes we forget this about certain bands from these eras, not only incredible musicians that have touched us in so many ways, more than Epstein. I can't even do a drum roll for that. That's so wrong. No, they were at the forefront of the technology, willing to give this technology a go, willing to make this technology happen. Elvis was actually one of the first artists to use a delay, a slap delay in his music. So, this stuff's been around for a while, and they've been trying to recreate this effect for a very long time. And that's why there's been so many iterations of hardware that's led us up to the 2000s, where software has become the thing. So what actually is delay? So delay is the same sound, any sound, so my voice, the same sound arriving again later because it took a longer path, right? The direct sound arrives first, the reflected sound arrives later. With a long enough gap in between, it becomes an echo, a distant echo, right? So you can, with delays, and I can do it on this effect here when I load this up. Delays. This is a fairly medium delay. Where this is a longer delay. And I can pull this right down. And now we have a slap delay. And you can hear that slapping back. This is a short delay, a very fast delay. And the faster the delay gets, the more it will eventually become a reverb. All right, so that's the transition between there. But when it's very fucking fast, very tight, and you will kind of get an echo or a delay that's a slapback in tighter spaces that are just outside that realm of becoming a reverb. And also depends on the shape of, if you're in a cave or something like that, the shape of the walls and all that kind of stuff. 2, the distance, the math. Sound travels at 343 milliseconds in air at room temperature. 50 milliseconds equals 17 meters extended travel. 100 milliseconds, 34. 300 milliseconds is a canyon. That's a rough kind of look. So a canyon is a scale to, 300 milliseconds. And you'll see these in delay effects that we have now. You'll see when you turn the dial, you'll see milliseconds go up, 50 milliseconds. We looked at this week, or last week, we looked at Rob Jackson's Deja Vu app, and quite clearly on that app it had all the way up to almost, it was 300 milliseconds, which is a standard for like a canyon kind of scale reverb. You all know the thing. You stand on a cliff, hello, right? That is your canyon kind of distance, and the brain interprets the gap through the distance. Why some places echo is clean and some smear? Because echoes can smear as well. And this is where we have technology these days where you can still get average, your typical delay apps, which is just tap delays or digital delay or whatever. But there's a lot of colorized delay software that we have now, right, where you can actually smear the delays out and colorize these things and get different kind of textures through frequencies. And we have so much, right? So many things we can add on to delays to make them totally colorized and totally, I can't think of the word. I lost this word last week as well too. So on a large surface, a single cliff face, this is where things can smear. A single echo on a cliff face, right? You hear that, hello, and it will bounce back on a huge, large surface, like off a cliff face. You're not going to get back like millions of them really quick or anything like that. Multiple flat surfaces will give you a fluttery kind of echo back, like in corridors or tunnels. Irregular rock formations. So if everything's like kind of irregular shapes and stuff like that, then you can get scattered reflections when they're not bouncing back at equal times, right? So you get like, hello, 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 hello. It all depends on the way it all reflects back and what's around you at the time. Then you've got soft materials, right? So where they are absorbed more, the echo is absorbed and you'll get a lighter bounce back. So shorter trail and not as powerful, because this is the thing, right? This is why we say in studios, you don't always need all the fancy foam and all that stuff, right? You can use a blanket, to tie a blanket up on the wall. Sometimes if you're in a recording studio and you want to dampen the room and you got a green screen behind you, sometimes that's enough, right? It's a soft material that's going to absorb things. Remember, sound bounces off shiny, and it gets absorbed off soft things like blankets, pillows, all this kind of stuff, right? Natural man-made echo structures or delay structures, right? Delay, echo, same thing. Caves. Caves are the number one thing. That's the first people think of, right? So long, chaotic, multiple path reflections, canyons, clean call and response. That's the kind of echo that you get off a cliff face in a canyon. It's a call and response. Hello, hello, comes back depending on the time, right? These are huge, vast spaces. So there's time it's got to come back. Corridors, bathrooms that can do these with early reflections. We'll talk a little about early reflections because they can be used with reverbs as well. And then you've even got cathedrals, right? So cathedrals can produce long pre-delays as well too, depending on the way that, and remember, a lot of these cathedrals we discussed last week with reverb were built for the very reason to do this kind of stuff, to create these effects, these natural scientific sounds. Hello, Riverbend Sound. It says, I'm a delay addict. Guitar delay pedals are my gateway drug into music technology. Me too, and distortion. So architectural stuff, you've got echo machines, right? Domes, focused sound hotspots, corridors, bathrooms, cathedrals. These are, and I forgot to mention places like valleys. So you get valleys where it's a staggered return path, right? So yeah, it's a staggered return, slowly coming back. Ice fields. Now, the ice fields are interesting because you can get like bright, sharp reflections, but they'll be scattered as well too, right? So, because remember, ice, so snow and that is soft as well. Moving to technology. So before people started to actually try and build the machines that could, generate this kind of thing to recreate delays, we had pre-technology, and these are very similar to what we talked about with reverb. As again, these very similar how the history of these two effects or naturally occurring scientific things happen, because buildings and mic placement was one of the ways to create delays. Think about it. We talked about some of the recording studios last week, some of these big recording studios that built these rooms, these dungeons where they would place a microphone in the room, and depending on where you place the microphone, that would create the reverb, and you could record that back into the studio. Well, it's the same thing with delay. They had these delay dungeons as well too that were just differently shaped spaces. Whereas in reverb, they had columns up and stuff to create more faster reflections. So it was all about distance, mic placement, room mics to close mics, and they call these echo chambers. These days, when we think of echo chambers, we think of social media. Yeah, I bet you like dungeons, Brad, example. We know about that. Now, why? We could go down a rabbit hole with that. Why do we have echo chambers in social media today? Because it's exactly what it sounds like. When you apply feedback or to a delay effect in a room and say something, it's going to keep going and going and going and going and get louder and louder and feedback on itself. And that's an echo chamber with people's fucking opinions. So that is where it very much is one of the best descriptions of today's society in the way we hang out in these spaces where we like to be told that what we believe is right all the time, instead of be challenged and open our minds to other possible things. Gary Hubbs, hello to you. With these technologies, people were actually building spaces. They're actually, we've talked about cathedrals and all these spaces that naturally have canyons and all this, helped us understand what it is, and then you start to build these kind of technologies using building materials to help in recording and all of this stuff. So delay, let's just go back. Delay was discovered via nature. It helped us then shape rooms. From there, we built machines. Then we digitize them, and now we invent delays that possibly couldn't even exist in nature. And we're going to run through how we got to this point now with multitudes of these delays and show you some of them. So the original kind of manufactured delay was called a line delay. And this obviously occurred through, we're already talking about having phones and connections and all this stuff. And you're going to see this a lot throughout this series of how-to, talking about gear and music gear. A lot of today's stuff that we use in as audio equipment to enhance our music came from testing gear, came from shit like testing phone lines and testing equipment, and just that would monitor bleeps and bloops and blops and blips and all this stuff. This is why we have electronic music, right? So it all started with effects before anything else, and then that led on to the synthesized music with modular music and all this stuff. But all that gear pretty much is inspired by Heinbach. If you're a follower of Heinbach's channel, he covers so much of this gear, all this old test equipment that's meant to test old phone lines and shit like that. And today, people use that to generate music, right? So this original line delay, let's take a look and see. I'm pretty sure I've got some analog line delay. Boom. We have images. We've got images. Give us a sec. Analog line delay, a network of electrical components connected in cascade, where each individual element creates a time difference between its input and output. So this is essentially a cable. So this line delay, so some of them, so you can see how it goes around here, almost like a coil. And but this was flawed, right? Compared to the equipment that was to come, it operates on analog signals whose amplitude varies continuously. In the case of periodic signal, the time difference can be described in terms of a change in phase of the signal. One example of an analog delay is the bucket brigade device, which we will get to later on. We've got schematics here. Now, this early 20s, right, was when these came out. This is analog, right? Obviously analog. Used analog delay lines in the 1920s, for example. There's a patent filed in 1921. And it ultimately, though, this was not ideal. There had to be a better way to do this kind of delay. And they moved on. Let me just get back over here. So I've got notes everywhere, my friends. You needed, part of the reasons, some of the reasons this didn't work, you needed absurdly long lengths of cable, right? And one of the biggest problems was the fidelity, the noise, unbearable noise, and signal loss, right? We talk about this now with things like even USB. Anything over a long cable, over a period of time, there is degradation of sound. With a lot of cameras that you get these days, like the cameras I'm using here too, these are USB-C cameras that I'm using. If I use a cable that's any longer than 3 meters to connect this across the room, it just won't work, right? Then you need to move into like powering a USB. You need a powered USB cable. Is there anybody who's heard of a powered USB cable? I had never, and I end up falling down the rabbit hole of those to understand what that was all about. Very interesting stuff, because over distance, of course, degradation happens and these things get signal loss. And that was one of the biggest things, signal loss, and especially like using this to try and in a recording studio with the limited effects, limited recording gear they had back then, signal loss is not what you want. So true delay effects only become viable once sound could be stored in time. Magnetic recording. A magnetic recording was the thing that changed everything. So most of you will know for the longest period of time, for many, many years, recording music was done to tape. And tape goes through magnetic heads, the way the tape is read. The tape goes through spools that push it around, and there's a magnetic head that reads the tape and transfers the tape into sound. I'm not going to break down all of that, right? But tape audio so can record and write sound through the magnetic heads. The tapes move through it, and the playback head reads later. So this is how reverb actually worked. If I give you a diagram of it so you'll understand, maybe. And one of the first of these was by the company Ampex, who, if you've been making music for as long as I have, the earliest demos I ever did in a recording studio, we got our masters given to us on Ampex tapes. So back in the 50s, I think, Ampex, or 1944, the company was founded. So Ampex have been doing this for a long time. They know what they're fucking doing, right? That's their business. Tape. And I think I still have some masters on some reels packed in a box that have the Ampex logo on it. So Ampex, one of the companies, so American company, founded in 1944. Hello, Leela. And they, let me get to where I want to get to down here with tape players. So starting in where are we? Here we are. Ampex's first great success was a line of reel-to-reel tape recorders developed from the German wartime magnetophone system at the behest of Bing Crosby. You're going to hear some names, right? Because musicians had a lot to do with this. Musicians have always had a lot to do with technology. It's interesting how, side tangent, shall we do a side tangent? Side tangent. Here we are in 2026, and we've got, as some fuckheads like to call it, AI, generative AI, but it's new technology. No, it's not. And the only artists who are using it as new technology are fucking shills. Fucking lazy arsed shills. And the other people who are saying it's new technology are people who have no idea about any form of music whatsoever. But when we're talking about this kind of stuff, musicians had a big part in it. They were the test subjects when this stuff came out, and certain musicians would jump on quick and go, hey, I'm into this. I want to use this technology. So Ampex quickly became a leader in tape audio technology, and they created their first, I think it's down here, so the early tape recorders was the Model 200A, which first shipped in April 1948. So we've had this stuff for a long time, right? And you can see, look at these demons. It always reminds me of a face when I see these things, right? Always reminds me of a face. But you can see the origin of cassette tapes and all this stuff, because the tape goes through, we've got magnetic heads, it reads through the heads, generates a sound. But what we have is a record head and a play head. And so not only the technology was used to record music and then play it back, so we've done all this, that's great. We know how to use this stuff. But what was discovered with these machines was the ability to create delay, because the sound is going through one head and then there's a second head. So there's a time difference between the two heads. And this I believe, I don't know if this is true, but it feels like it was stumbled across by accident, which a lot of these technologies were, right? It's like, hey, this thing that we're using to test phone lines happens to do this thing. And then all of a sudden the Beatles are using it on their album, right? This is quite a common thing throughout the history of musical effects and instruments and all this kind of stuff, that it was an accident and all of a sudden everybody starts using it. So where are we? I've lost my place here. Let me just come back over here. So we're back over to tape delay. Now, so the idea is the tape goes through, it hits one head and then hits another head, and this would create a delay. But with these devices, you only had a few speeds. So you couldn't really push the boundaries of getting longer delays, right? There's only like a slow speed, a mid, and a faster speed. And so that's the limit you're going to be pushing for a delay. You can't really go and get the crazy delays we get now. So people wanted to get longer delays because this sounded really good. The music sounded really fucking good. Plus, what was interesting about these delays too is there was, with all this old gear, g'day Mark's Noise, with all this old gear, this is why we have software today that tries to emulate all this old gear. It has stuff that it's very hard to recapture unless you use a multitude of today's effects, like a saturator or like a high-pass filter or some kind of flutter effect, because tape naturally has these things like flutter. You see it now in today's apps, the wow and flutter dial, which was just something that would naturally occur in tape because of pitch instability, because tape is tape. It can snap. You can actually, while a tape is spinning, you can slow it down, put your hand on the reel and slow it down and create an effect. You can mess with it and create that flutter and that wow and that kind of effect. Saturation, right? So the noise of the machine as well adds to that delay that is coming out of tape or just in the recording, like hiss and all this kind of stuff. Often, the person who was credited for working out delay, same guy who was for reverb, Les Paul. Les Paul is often attributed to this. So, not only is, the name Les Paul synonymous with guitar, all this kind of stuff, but in delay and reverb and all this kind of stuff. So sound-on-sound tape manipulation was what he's attributed to. Then you had things like some equipment that came in, some people like Ray Butts. The Echo Sonic amp was in the 1950s. We got some pictures of stuff here. This is the Echo. Look at this thing, man. This is the Echoplex. So people started building these devices to try and just capture the echo instead of just the recording, just instead of the actual tape reel for recording, they started making things like this. And essentially the same thing is inside here, right? With the magnetic heads and tape running around. But look at that, man. Look at the power cord. Crazy stuff. This one's not going to load, obviously. There's some, the Watkins Copycat. WEM solid state. And you can see this one has multiple heads, right? Which, again, will give you multiple delays. And this is a common thing with all these units as they went on, because each time it reads across these heads, it's creating another delay. And look at this one. So here's a more portable. Oh, this is the same one on its back. I think that's all I've got for these. We got more pictures. I'm trying to get a picture of this sucker. The can I do this? It's not going to let me. The where are you? The Roland RE201. Let's see if we can just grab a picture here. The Roland RE201 Space Echo. This one is, very well known, and so many emulations of this. Even when I do a search for it, right, a quick Google search, most of them I'm going to find pictures of the software these days. But here's the thing with this. You can still buy these things floating around. They're still quite repairable, right? Because that's the thing with analog gear. It's quite repairable still these days. Some of the future delay units, not so repairable. But this is the Roland RE201 Space Echo. Again, multiple heads. This little mode selector here allowed you to choose how many heads, which heads were running at the same time for the echoes. And this has been emulated by so many companies, not only on iOS, but on desktop and all of that. So the Space Echo was a big one in the scheme of things. And I really should push on. Just give me a sec. Where are we? Here. The Echoplex, Roland RE201. The Echo Cord, the Copycat, we've kind of seen pictures of that, the Electrosonic amp. These were all now, and with these, sorry, I'm losing my place. Rhythmic repeats. So the thing was with this, with tape delay, it's not a copy machine. This is a quote. The tape delay isn't a copy machine. It's a photocopier that slowly gets drunk. Because there was a lot of irregularity with tape too as well, when you think about tape, because it's unpredictable. It's ruly, it's out of control, and there is all of that. It was great for rhythmic repeats, swelling ambience, dub echoes, and yes, available on the App Store. There's so many versions of it on the App Store. It is ridiculous. I think one of them here we go. There's one here. The Zodiac Echo by Yonak. There it is, right? And if I grab a microphone... Yo. So, we've got multiple mode selectors here. Repeats. You've got reverb built into this. The timing. And when we go all the way to 11. 11! Yeah! Yo! Slapback. So this is the slapback. And the slapback was one of the main effects that you would get from these devices. Slapback was the thing. And Elvis used slapback. A whole lot of big producers, performers used slapback. It was very, very popular for a period of time. And this led people to try and find, again, with this is tape, remember? So there's degradation and all this. And people are always chasing perfection. So, of course, people start trying to invent new ways to recreate delay. And we move over to drum delay. So a magnetic drum delay. This is, I can show you a picture, maybe reverb delay. Reverb.com is terrible for loading pictures. Let me see if I can grab this. Drum delay. God, reverb. Let's go drum delay. Images. Give it to me. Give it to me, bitch. You're not going to do it, are you? Magnetic. Here we go. Magnetic. Sorry, guys. Here we go. That's the one I'm looking for. Let's see if I can zoom in. The Benson Echo Rec. So this is a magnetic drum, completely different. You've got this magnetic coil over here that wraps around this drum to create an echo. It travels around, right? So again, a completely different take on how reverb or echo can be manufactured. And again, a different kind of sound. This is the thing. When you try different things, you're going to get different kind of sounds. And this is all of these different things that people were trying to make lead to now when we buy one delay, you get all these inventions that came afterwards. So it was a rotating magnetic drum with a fixed recorder, multiple playback heads, and it had a mechanical memory wheel. The advantages were no tape, right? So no wear on the tape. Stable timing, rhythmic multi-tap patterns, so you actually get definitely more rhythmic patterns, and it had a more distinctive metal tone compared to this fluttery, wowy kind of thing, right? There are a few models that tried to do this. Binson, the Echo Rec, the one you just saw there. Also, what else? The Miyazi Echo-Matic and the Klimt Echo-Let. I don't know what this one is here. Look at this one, though. It looks like a fucking suitcase. It looks like something you'd take on holidays with you. And look at even this front panel would go on. It is a fucking suitcase. It's even got a fucking latch. And that's how you would open up the side here to get inside to the drum. Now, there are these things that are still available. These things still float around, amazingly enough. And they are kind of repairable to some degree. And with the drum, one of the first artists who actually took this on was the aforementioned Pink Floyd. Again, groundbreaking musicians, and they were always willing to try new things. And they took on, the Benson, and a lot of psychedelic rock began using these to to create their delays, to be different, right? Because artists, music's always trying to be different than somebody else, trying to be ahead of the curve and have an advantage and create a sound that nobody else has got. We all want to do that, right? You all want to stand out. And what a great time to be alive when all this technology was coming out. Not so much for the next one, the oil can delay. Great in theory. Not so good today if you got one of these, because who the fuck's going to know how to repair one of these? Now, there's again, this is not loading, so we're not getting a loaded picture there. The Morley 747 delay. So this is a delay echo reverb, and this kind of technology, completely different again, removing the magnetic heads, all this kind of stuff, and instead using a rotating can filled with, dielectric oil? And it would use electrostatic charges that get stored up, that would store in the signal, and then into the drum of the oil, and it would create the delays that way. I know, what? Remember, this goes back to the start too, that delay is just fucking physics. This is all just natural physics. So, of course, to recreate this stuff, you're going to be able to use nature's physics to do this kind of stuff. The sonic traits of this were different as well too. You had a more warbly kind of delay, smeared repeats, more smeared, kind of getting to a reverby kind of way where you could mistake it for reverb, right? And a ghost-like tone where you're not getting the exact bounce back. It's more ghostly and wispy. And one of the drawbacks was because people are always chasing perfection throughout the history of music to sound better and better and higher fidelity in music. Of course, they are all just glorified tape machines. But this isn't, because it's not tape. It's completely different. So the problem was with this is very, very low-fi. Some of the brands, the manufacturers were Telray, Morley. Fender had an oil can variant as well. Gibson had one also. So basically, but the idea was, in reality, people tried to store sound in a can of soup. That's pretty much your visual, right? Does that help? So electromagnetic charges into a can of soup to create delays. There you go. The next one we'll cover is acoustic delay. So copper time cube. We've got a photo of these too. So, and I mentioned at the start, using hoses. Hoses! Look at this. All right? Look. Just the ingenuity of people to even come up with something like this, right? To sit there and go, I'm going to create a delay. How can we do it? We'll do it this way. So the speaker sounds in this. Speaker sends a sound into a long coiled tube. The mic captures the output at the end. And we're starting here this is where things start moving towards digital, right? From here, analog, then into digital. The 70s analog kind of stuff too, right? So the speaker sends, the mic captures on the output, and the travel time of the hose, or the copper hose, is the delay. Again, people, we're not so dumb after all. It's amazing how these days it feels like society overall is getting stupid. I could have said stupider, but no. Do you think people would invent this stuff these days? I just don't think so. Pure physics, right? Which makes sense because delay is pure physics. Now, the uses, some of the artists who use this was used for vocal thickening. Great for vocal thickening because it had a really short slap, right? Because you don't have meters and meters of this stuff. Plate, it could actually sit in between a echo or delay or a reverb, right? Because the concept can be used for a plate and spring. That's reverb, very similar kind of thing. But then we move into the BBD, the Bucket Brigade devices. So Bucket Brigade, let's give you a breakdown of Bucket Brigade. You may have heard the term before. Where are we? Over here. Or delay. Let's get down over here. Analog, oil can, digital delay. Also, where are you? Oh, we'll just go with this one. God, I'm not, all the things I need to open today. And I'm going to show you some pictures first. Right? Delays. Look at these things. Starting to get more to a lot of people's age groups, right? Panda the Torch Clown, hello to you. But with Bucket Brigade, so this is a completely different system. Bucket Brigades, think about it like it actually says. Think about a line of buckets traveling through boing, ba-boing, 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 ba-boing. There was a diagram I saw of this, and I couldn't find it again, explaining Bucket Brigade. Where is that diagram? Do I actually have it here? Man, and I just could not find it again. These ones won't really help. There you go. There it is there. Is everyone clear? Are we all good on bucket delay? Bucket Brigade delay? Anyway, again, I'm running out of fucking time, man. We're going to have to skip over some stuff. But you're getting the idea. So we've gone through all these delays, but Bucket Brigade, how Bucket Brigade works, a chain of capacitors passing voltage like buckets of water, like it's being passed on like firemen passing buckets of water to put out a fire. The clock controls handoff speed. Faster the clock, the shorter delay and brighter, the slower, longer delay and darker, noisier sounds. Why filtering? So there was filtering built in to Bucket Brigade to remove clock noise, right? Because you get noise from this. Shapes a tone, produces signature darkness. A whole bunch of units, the Boss DM2, the Electro Harmonics Memory Man, MXR and analog delay. Sonic identity of these was warm repeats, soft highs, sits behind a dry signal really well. We move into digital delay, rack mounts, and this is where things get interesting, right? Because digital, well, we've got to start using converters. And this was the same with Bucket Brigade. So we move into converter land. And if you don't know what converters are, you're using them all the time in your interfaces and stuff, where you're taking an analog signal and the converter, an ADC, is converting from analog to digital and then processing it through a memory buffer and then sending it out, a DAC, which is a digital back to analog conversion, right? So this is where we move into the modern digital delay sounds and things get really interesting. And yeah, edge. When you think of digital delays and things like that and into this era, you always think of Edge from U2, one of the leading artists who, you know, in my opinion, is not really an awesome guitarist, but he does rely on delays to shape a lot of his sound. And hey, it's a signature sound, right? Again, musicians taking technology to make it their own sound. It's a common theme with all of these technologies we're going to go through over the weeks. And did I say hi to Forest of the Wolf? I think so. And I said Panda the Killer Clown, Panda the Killer Clown, the Torture Clown. What am I saying? The killer clown, man. Joe and Barry Glenn, hello, and Professor Boomer, hello. So, but what digital gave us is precise. Precise, yes. Brian Eno, look, there's so much, so many artists I could talk about and only so little time, right? But digital delay opened the doors for so many different delays. You could recreate all of these previous technologies that were a fucking pain in the ass to carry around, to manufacture, to keep up and keep repaired and all that stuff, because now digital delay unlocks exact time control to a clock, tempo syncing, stereo ping pong, multi-tap, modulation, pitch shifting, looping. Remember too, looping with tape. Tape is an amazing thing, right? We're going to do a whole thing on tape, because tape not only can record music for the longest time, still does to this very day, is instrumental behind delays and echoes, but also in looping. Right? Modern technology with looping all came from fucking tape. If you go and watch Heinbach and his amazing channel, he's got live performance with huge reel-to-reels going across the room and him walking under pieces of tape. Tape is an amazing piece of equipment, right? But digital technology came along and changed all of that, because it was all in a unit like this. Very famous Eventide's digital delay line. One of the main reasons why Eventide is one of the leaders in reverb and delay software these days and hardware, right? They just make good stuff, and this one was a flagship. And you got, things like this, the Lexicon. Some of my images aren't loading. Who had one of these when they were young? This was my first delay pedal I ever had. Boss, I love this pedal. It was one of my favorite fucking pedals of all time. I love this fucking pedal so much. If I could get another one these days, I probably would. So digital gear comes in, and it changes everything, right? Because we've got rack mounts, we've got pedals, direct to doors, everything changes, and you can start to recreate the sounds that we have today, right? We can recreate it. And how can we recreate these very specific sounds? Because we also have plugins like compressors and saturators and distortions and stuff that can recreate the lo-fi sounds of all these old units. And that's why you do get these days so many apps that recreate old technology, because the units exist and they can use other technologies like compressors and lo-fi frequency cuts and all that kind of stuff to shape and model this kind of stuff, right? And the other thing too, as these technologies went on, longer delays. I mean, that was one of the biggest problems with this technology, being able to attain that canyon, right? That hello, that was the hardest thing, because the tape needed to be really fucking long. The coils needed to be really fucking long. Impossible to do unless you've got like a Heinbach recording studio, right? So we'll wrap things up, and I'm just going to bounce through some really cool apps in the last few minutes. So I can find where I'm at again. We got some schematics. I'm not going to run through schematics, right? We got the idea. But here we are today. And you take it, like, I can't say you, I take it for granted. So I guess we all do, right? We all take it for granted that these days you can just go to the App Store right on iOS and pay like $6. And, that's the thing. When you're buying these apps, you're actually buying all this history that we've talked about. Every fucking moment throughout history is in these apps, right? Without these smart people using physics and thinking, using their large brains, we wouldn't have this stuff. And it blows my mind. And now, again, since I've started doing this series, when I opened a Reverb the other day, I just was thinking about all the history to get to this. And I find it very inspiring to know that people can actually think. I know it's hard to focus on that these days when you look at and listen to people. They're fucking nuts. But here on iOS, I'm going to focus mainly because we have some really, really cool reverbs. So let's bounce over to this little project I've got here. There we go. And I've put a bunch of my favorites in here, right, too. So Let's just bring my voice in. Hello. Yes, we've got my vocal. Hello, hello, hello. So clean vocal. And the aforementioned, we used this one earlier. This is the Yonak version of this, right? So hello. Hello. Yeah. Yeah. Now the thing is, when this one was originally made, it wasn't able to do all these things. It's got presets built into it now that can take it even further than the original piece of kit, right? It's so much more than the original piece of kit. Yo. Hey. So fucking cool. Now, you look at one of these apps, which is by Blease. Let me make sure we're all good. By Blease, this one here. And this is pretty much a standard delay. It's got a shifter, it's got filters, presets. Hello. Hey. One of the things I want to talk about now is because we have technology, we have this thing here, feedback, right? And to be able to use the feedback dial, if you don't know what the feedback dial is in delay, this determines how long the delay is going to keep going. And if you turn your feedback all the way up, it can create some astounding sounds, but it can also get out of control. See? Like that. I didn't even have anything running through it. That was still a previous delay from only 15 seconds ago. Let me bring the mic back in. Hello. Right. Hello. And these days, we can automate shit like this to actually create some really, really cool effects. Now, of course, you can hear the different, this is an ensemble, right? We've got experiments. You could never do this kind of stuff. Another one of my favorite ones I want to jump to, this one's called Other Desert Cities. It's by Audio Damage. And it's just fucking wild. It has 4 multi-tape heads. 2 tape heads, sorry. And it can do some really odd stuff with modulation, octaves, semitones. I love this app so much. It's so much more than a delay, right? Pitch shifting. So this is a wicked app. I can't recommend this one enough. Then we've got this one. I can't leave this out. Fab Filter have been making wicked apps for the longest time. If you don't own this, it's called Timeless. It is so in-depth and just some beautiful high quality delays. And a massive list of stuff in here, like modulated, reverbs. Yo! So reverb delays, we've got long delays. Yeah. Where this one's a chip tune delay, so it's turning it into this crunchy lo-fi delay. Wild. Hey. Fucking sick. This one I did a review on many years ago. This one's called Yale D. This one focuses on reverse delays. Reverse delays. Hey. Yeah. Am I right? We've got ones like this one here, which is Mantis. Pretty wild stuff in Mantis. Hello. This is by Audio Thing. Yo. 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 We've got some crazy ones like get off. This is quantum delay. Quantum delay. Yeah. Yeah. Pretty. All right, you get the idea, right? So there's a heap of stuff. Now, if you want to search out some of the stuff that I've covered on the channel, the best way to do it is probably just type into YouTube. Let's do a test, and I'll dump you over at Pete's in 1 second. Let's just do this quickly. If you type in Jade, Starr, delay, or echo, you should get a whole lot of all these apps that I've covered, right? So you can see Mantis, most of them will come up, Vari Speed, delays, K7D, so many of them. Just search that and you can find heaps of them that I've covered here on the channel. Most of them you will find because I've covered so many of them. Anyway, we got to get over to Pete. I'm not sure what we're doing for next week, but we got lots of great stuff coming up this week on the channel. And don't forget, big interview this week. Massive, massive fucking interview. It will actually happen, right? So don't panic. This week we have Carver Luis. YML is delayed. Yes. Carver Luis is on the show this week. Very excited to have them on. They're on Unearthed. It's going to be wicked. All right. Thanks for hanging out. Do all the things. Be kind. All that stuff. We'll see you over at YML. Let's go. Let's go. Thank you, Mike.